Welcome, seekers of wisdom, to day 13 of our 30-day Wisdom Quest Challenge. Prepare yourself for today. We embark on a journey not just into a single concept, but into the very heart of what it means to live a skillful and flourishing life in a world that seems dedicated to tearing us apart. Our theme for today is a principle so profound, so central to human happiness, and yet so deceptively simple that we often overlook its immense power. We will be undertaking a deep philosophical workshop on the art and science of moderation and balance, a concept known to the ancients as the middle way. 1. Before we proceed, we must acknowledge the environment in which we are attempting this work. We live in an age of unprecedented extremity. Our digital environment is a screaming cacophony of absolutes, a relentless fire hose of information supercharged with outrage and engineered for addiction. Our political discourse has devolved into tribal warfare, where nuance is seen as weakness and compromise as betrayal. Our culture of work glorifies burnout as a status symbol, while our culture of wellness can, paradoxically, become an obsessive new form of anxiety. We are whipsawed daily, hourly, by a psychological pendulum of immense momentum. We swing from the extreme of frantic, caffeine-fueled productivity to the extreme of depressive, screen-addled lethargy. We swing from the extreme of rigid, punishing self-control in our diets and resolutions to the extreme of complete, guilt-ridden abandon. We swing from the desperate need to be seen and validated by the crowd to the painful, isolating loneliness of feeling utterly disconnected. This constant oscillation is exhausting. It is the core malady of modern life, leaving us feeling frayed, fragmented, and perpetually off-kilter, questioning why, despite all our efforts, we feel so far from a state of peace or genuine well-being. The allure of the extreme is a powerful siren song. It promises simplicity in a world that feels overwhelmingly complex. It offers a clear enemy, a clear solution, an unambiguous identity. It tells you that if you just push harder, restrict more, believe more fervently, or hate more righteously, you will find the certainty and security you crave. But this is a profound illusion. The path of extremism in any area of life is a brittle path. It is a structure built without flexibility, and it is therefore destined to shatter upon contact with the messy, unpredictable, and deeply nuanced reality of human existence. Today, we learn to walk a different path. Not a path of compromise, but a path of power. Not a path of mediocrity, but a path of mastery. It is the path of equilibrium, the path of the centered soul. It is the middle way. To truly understand the solution, we must become experts in the problem. We must perform a deep diagnosis of the psychological underpinnings that make a life of imbalance so tragically common. The first and most powerful force is the architecture of our modern dopamine economy. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation and reward, is not about pleasure itself, but about the anticipation of pleasure. Our brains evolved this system to motivate us to seek out things necessary for survival. But our modern world has hijacked this ancient system. Think of your day. You might wake up and immediately reach for your phone. The anticipation of new notifications, emails, or social media updates, providing a small but immediate dopamine hit. That jolt is designed to make you want to do it again. The algorithmically curated outrage in a news feed provides a spike of righteous indignation, another powerful neurological reward. The hyper-palatable, high-sugar, high-fat foods we eat are engineered to provide a massive dopamine response that real, natural food cannot compete with. Binge-watching a television series provides a constant drip feed of cliffhangers and resolutions. This creates a state of chronic overstimulation. Our dopamine receptors become downregulated, meaning we need more and more intense stimuli to feel the same level of motivation or satisfaction. The quiet joy of a walk in nature, the subtle pleasure of a deep conversation, the gentle satisfaction of focused work. These things cannot compete with the high-octane digital and commercial stimulants we are surrounded by. In this state, balance feels like boredom. Calm feels like a void. The middle way feels like a path of deprivation, because our brains have been rewired to only recognize the shrieking intensity of the extremes. The second major psychological driver is the relationship between anxiety and the illusion of control. The world feels, for many of us, fundamentally unstable. We face economic uncertainty, political polarization, social upheaval, and existential environmental threats. In the face of these vast, uncontrollable forces, the human psyche seeks refuge. It shrinks the world down to a manageable size and attempts to exert absolute, tyrannical control over that tiny kingdom. If you can't control the global economy, you can, perhaps, control every single calorie that enters your body. If you can't control the political landscape, you can curate your information feed into a perfectly sealed echo chamber. If your life feels chaotic, you can organize your desk, your inbox, or your daily schedule with military precision. These extreme behaviors provide a temporary anesthetic for our anxiety. They give us a feeling of agency and order. But it is a fragile order. The moment an unexpected event disrupts the perfect plan, an unplanned meal, a dissenting opinion, a disruption in the schedule, the entire structure collapses, leading to immense distress and often a violent swing to the opposite extreme of giving up entirely. This is the cycle of the perfectionist, a life lived in a brittle prison of self-imposed rules. This tendency is amplified by a set of common cognitive distortions, chief among them being black and white, or dichotomous thinking. This is the habit of seeing the world in binary opposites without any shades of gray. People are either good or evil. You are either a total success or a complete failure. A day is either perfectly productive or entirely wasted. This is a cognitive shortcut. It reduces the immense complexity of the world into simple, digestible categories, which lowers our cognitive load. It's easier than wrestling with ambiguity. However, this shortcut comes at a terrible price. It creates a rigid, intolerant, and inaccurate map of reality. Life is almost entirely lived in the shades of gray, and a mind that cannot perceive them is a mind that is constantly at war with the world as it actually is. This mindset is the very definition of imbalance, as it forces us to exist only at the poles of experience, denying the rich, fertile landscape that lies in between. Finally, and perhaps most subtly, we fall into the identity trap. In our search for meaning and belonging, we often latch on to an extreme and fuse it with our sense of self. It starts innocently enough. You find a passion for fitness and begin to identify as a runner or a lifter. You commit to your career and begin to see yourself as a high achiever or a grinder. You adopt a new diet and become a vegan. You discover a philosophy and become a Stoic. These labels can be useful. They can provide community and a sense of purpose, but they can also become prisons. When your identity is the person who always works late, the idea of leaving at 5 p.m. feels like a betrayal of who you are. When your identity is the person with perfect self-control, a moment of indulgence feels like a catastrophic failure of character. The ego invests itself in the consistency of this extreme identity, and it will defend it fiercely, even when that identity is causing immense suffering. To choose the middle way, then, often requires the courage to loosen our grip on these rigid, self-imposed identities and to embrace a more fluid, complex, and authentic version of ourselves. Having performed this deep diagnosis of our modern malady, let us now turn to the ancient physicians of the soul, who understood these problems intimately and prescribed a powerful antidote. Our first stop is in ancient India, with the story of the Buddha. To truly grasp the profundity of the middle way, we must understand the sheer extremity of the life he lived before his awakening. He began as Prince Siddhartha, born into immense wealth and privilege. His father, the king, desperate to shield him from the harsh realities of life, constructed a bubble of perfect pleasure. The prince was surrounded by every conceivable luxury: palaces for every season, the finest foods, beautiful companions, fragrant gardens, and constant entertainment. He was given everything a person could possibly desire. And yet, amidst this ocean of indulgence, a deep disquiet grew within him. He sensed that something was missing, that this life of fleeting, repetitive pleasure was not the path to true or lasting happiness. Driven by this divine discontent, he convinced his charioteer to take him outside the palace walls. On 4 separate journeys, his curated reality was shattered. He saw for the first time an old man, frail and bent with age, and understood the reality of aging. He saw a sick person, ravaged by disease, and understood the reality of illness. He saw a corpse being carried for cremation, and understood the terrifying reality of death. These 4 sights shook him to his core, revealing the universal truth of suffering that his life of extreme pleasure had been designed to deny. Finally, he saw a wandering ascetic, a holy man who had renounced all worldly possessions and seemed to possess a deep, unshakable peace. Seeing this, Siddhartha knew he could no longer live his life of comfortable illusion. He performed the great renunciation, leaving his palace, his family, and his title behind. And just as he had lived in the extreme of indulgence, he now threw himself into the extreme of asceticism. He sought out the most renowned teachers of self-mortification, believing that by punishing the body, he could liberate the spirit. He practiced holding his breath until he felt excruciating pressure in his head and ears. He ate so little, sometimes a single grain of rice a day, that his limbs became like withered reeds and his spine could be seen through the taut skin of his stomach. He slept on beds of thorns and exposed his body to the harshest heat and coldest cold. For 6 long years, he was the model ascetic, pushing the limits of human endurance. But he found no enlightenment. He was closer to death than to liberation, his mind clouded by weakness, not clarified by purity. The turning point came as he sat, emaciated and near death, by a river. A young village girl named Sujata, seeing his condition, offered him a simple bowl of rice and milk. His ascetic companions were scandalized, seeing this as a betrayal of their path. But Siddhartha, in a moment of profound insight, realized that a body weakened by extreme punishment could not support a mind seeking the highest truths. He accepted the offering. As the nourishment spread through his body, his strength returned, and with it, a clarity he had never known. He sat beneath a Bodhi tree, vowing not to rise until he had found the truth. That night, he meditated, not by punishing his body, but by observing his mind. He realized then that both the path of sensual indulgence he had lived as a prince and the path of self-mortification he had lived as an ascetic were dead ends. Both were extremes that fueled craving, either the craving for more pleasure or the craving to be free from pain. The true path, the path to the cessation of suffering, lay squarely in between them. This was his discovery of the middle way, the central artery of his entire teaching. It is not a compromise, but a transcendent path that avoids the pitfalls of both extremes. Now, let us travel west to ancient Greece, where Aristotle, a philosopher of immense practical genius, arrived at a strikingly similar conclusion through the lens of ethics and character. For Aristotle, the ultimate goal of human life, the telos, was to achieve eudaimonia. This word is often translated as happiness, but it more accurately means human flourishing, a state of living well and doing well, of actualizing one's highest potential. He asked, how does one achieve this flourishing state? His answer was, by living a life of virtue, or erit, which means excellence. And this is where he introduced his master key, the doctrine of the mean, or the golden mean. Aristotle observed that in almost every sphere of human action and emotion, the virtuous path, the path of excellence, is a mean that lies between 2 opposing vices. a vice of excess and a vice of deficiency. This is not a call for a timid, boring mediocrity. The mean is the peak of the mountain, the summit of excellence, while the vices are the abysses on either side. Let's examine this in detail with several of his key virtues. First, the virtue of courage. The deficiency is cowardice, the person who fears everything and runs from every challenge. The excess is recklessness, the person who fears nothing and rushes into danger foolishly. The mean is courage, the person who assesses the danger accurately, feels the appropriate amount of fear, and acts rightly despite that fear. Second, the virtue of temperance. This is the virtue of self-control, particularly regarding bodily pleasures. The deficiency is insensibility, a rare vice where a person takes no pleasure in things that are naturally pleasant. The excess is self-indulgence or profligacy, the person who is a slave to their appetites for food, drink, and sex. The mean is temperance, the person who enjoys these pleasures in a way that is healthy, fitting, and not detrimental to their long-term well-being. Third, the virtue of liberality, which concerns the spending of money. The deficiency is stinginess or miserliness, the person who hoards their wealth and cannot bear to part with it. The excess is prodigality, the person who spends recklessly and wastes their resources. The mean is liberality, the person who gives the right amount to the right people for the right reasons, with a sense of grace and without pain. Fourth, the virtue of proper pride or magnanimity. This concerns one's own self-worth. The deficiency is undue humility or pusillanimity, the person who, despite being worthy of great things, underestimates themselves and shrinks from opportunity. The excess is vanity or vainglory, the person who thinks they are worthy of great things when they are not, or who overestimates their worth. The mean is proper pride, the person who has an accurate and stable understanding of their own worth and claims the honors they rightly deserve. Fifth, the virtue of good temper. This concerns our response to anger. The deficiency is a lack of spirit, the person who does not get angry even when it is appropriate to do so, and is seen as a doormat. The excess is irascibility or hot-headedness, the person who flies into a rage at the slightest provocation. The mean is good temper or patience, a person who gets angry at the right things, with the right people, in the right way, and for the right amount of time. How does one learn to find this perfect mean in every situation? Aristotle's answer is that it requires a master virtue, a form of situational intelligence he called phronesis, or practical wisdom. Phronesis is not theoretical knowledge. It is the lived, embodied skill of perceiving the particulars of a situation and knowing what action is called for. It is the ability of the soul, as internal compass, to find true north in the complex terrain of life. It is developed not just by study, but by practice, by habituation, by making choices and learning from them over a lifetime. Our philosophical survey would be incomplete without acknowledging the profound wisdom of the Stoics and the Taoists. The Stoics, like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, placed the virtue of temperance at the center of their ethics. For them, the world is divided into what is within our control and what is not. A life of balance and tranquility, or apatheia, is achieved by focusing all our energy on what we control and accepting what we do not with equanimity. Extremes of emotion crippling anxiety, explosive rage, consuming desire are for the Stoics errors in judgment. They are the result of incorrectly believing that our well-being depends on external things that are not truly ours to command. Moderation, then, is a discipline of the mind. It is the practice of rationally assessing our desires and aversions and refusing to be a slave to them. It is the essence of inner freedom. The Taoists in ancient China offered a more poetic and fluid metaphor for balance, the yin-yang. This symbol is not one of a static, 50-50 split, but of a dynamic, flowing dance between complementary opposites. Darkness and light, feminine and masculine, stillness and action, yielding and asserting. One cannot exist without the other, and each contains the seed of its opposite. The Taoist sage does not seek to eliminate one side in favor of the other. Rather, they seek to harmonize the flow between them. This is the concept of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action. It is not about doing nothing. It is about acting in perfect alignment with the natural flow of things, like a boatman expertly navigating the currents of a river. The Taoist ideal is to be like water, soft and yielding, yet capable of overcoming the hardest rock. Water does not strive. It simply finds its own level. This is the essence of a balanced life, to be strong yet flexible, to be active yet calm, to find our own natural equilibrium without force or strain. Now, let's bring this constellation of ancient wisdom into the laboratory of our own modern lives through a series of practical case studies. Let's meet Anna, the Burnout CEO. Anna is the founder of a successful tech startup. Her identity is completely fused with her work. She is the first in the office and the last to leave. She works weekends, answers emails at 2 a.m., and believes that any moment not spent working is a moment wasted. This is the extreme of excess in ambition. Her company is thriving, but she is not. She suffers from chronic anxiety, insomnia, and has no meaningful relationships outside of work. Her aha moment comes when she ends up in the hospital due to stress-induced exhaustion. Lying in the hospital bed, she realizes she has built a successful company but has failed at building a successful life. Her middle way begins not with quitting, but with setting a single, small boundary. She will turn off her work phone at 8 p.m. It feels terrifying at first, like a betrayal of her entire ethos. But slowly, she adds another boundary, a 1-hour walk at lunch, no devices allowed. She rediscovers a love for painting she had abandoned in college. Her path to balance is not a single leap, but a series of small, courageous steps away from the abyss of excess and toward a life of sustainable, integrated success. Next, consider David, the anxious dieter. David has spent his adult life swinging between two extremes of health. He is either on a punishingly restrictive diet, keto, paleo, carnivore, where he obsesses over every calorie and macro, feeling virtuous but deprived. This is his extreme of excess. Inevitably, the willpower runs out and he swings violently to the extreme of deficiency, binging on junk food for weeks, feeling guilty, ashamed, and physically awful. His turning point is when he realizes that both extremes are rooted in self-hatred. He seeks the help of a nutritionist who teaches him about the middle way, mindful eating. He learns to listen to his body's actual hunger and fullness cues. He learns that no food is good or bad. He learns to cook simple, nourishing meals and to savor them. He also allows himself to eat a piece of cake at a birthday party without spiraling into guilt. His new path is one of self-compassion. He finds a form of movement he actually enjoys, hiking, instead of punishing himself at the gym. His balance isn't about a perfect diet. It's about a peaceful and respectful relationship with his own body. Now, let's explore Maria and Tom, the cling and flee partners. In their relationship, Maria exhibits the extreme of excess, codependency. She needs constant reassurance from Tom, feels anxious when he's not around, and has merged her hobbies and friends with his. Her identity is Tom's partner. Tom, on the other hand, exhibits the extreme of deficiency, avoidant isolation. He feels suffocated by Maria's needs and frequently pulls away, needing space and shutting down emotionally to protect his independence. Their relationship is a painful, unstable dance. Their breakthrough comes in couples therapy, where they learn the concept of the golden mean in relationships, interdependence. Maria starts to cultivate her own life again. She joins a book club, reconnects with old friends. She learns that her self-worth is not dependent on Tom's constant approval. Tom learns that emotional intimacy is not a threat to his independence and begins to practice sharing his feelings in small, safe ways. They learn to create a relationship that has both strong individual pillars and a strong connecting bridge, a healthy balance of me and we. Finally, consider Sam, the spiritual seeker. Sam swung from the extreme of cynical materialism, believing that only the physical world was real and mocking all forms of spirituality, to the opposite extreme of dogmatic fanaticism after a powerful personal experience. He joined a spiritual group that demanded absolute belief, shunned outsiders, and punished doubt. He traded the prison of cynicism for the prison of dogma. His journey to the middle way began when he started to notice inconsistencies and hypocrisies within his new group that his dogma forbade him from questioning. He realized that true spirituality could not be based on fear or the outsourcing of his critical thinking. His middle way became a path of open-minded personal inquiry. He began to read widely from different traditions: Buddhism, Taoism, Christian mysticism, secular humanism. He developed a personal meditation practice that was based on his own experience, not on dogma. He learned to live with the profound questions of existence without needing to cling to simplistic, absolute answers. His balance was found in a spirituality that embraced both faith and doubt, both heart and mind. Now, having explored the theory and the application, I invite you to engage in a direct personal practice. This is a guided workshop for your own inner calibration. If you are in a place where you can do so safely, I invite you to find a comfortable position in your chair. Uncross your legs, place your hands gently in your lap, and allow your eyes to softly close. Take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, feeling your belly expand like a balloon. Hold it for a moment, and then exhale slowly through your mouth with a soft sigh, releasing the day, releasing the tension. Let's do that again. A deep breath in, filling your lungs completely, and a long, slow breath out, letting go. Now, bring your awareness to the top of your head. Just notice the sensations there. Slowly, let that awareness drift down across your forehead, softening any lines of tension. Let it relax your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw. Allow your tongue to rest gently in your mouth. Let this wave of gentle awareness flow down your neck, releasing any tightness. Let it spread across your shoulders, melting away any burdens you are carrying. Feel it flow down your arms, through your elbows, into your wrists, your hands, and all the way to the tips of your fingers. Bring your awareness back to your torso. Feel it flow down your chest and your upper back, softening and opening. Let it move down to your belly, allowing it to be soft. Let it release any clenching in your lower back. Feel the awareness move down through your hips, your thighs, your knees, your shins and calves, and all the way down to your ankles, your feet, the soles of your feet, and the tips of your toes. Just sit for a moment, feeling your whole body bathed in this calm awareness. Now, let's begin our visualization. Bring to mind that specific area of your life where you feel most out of balance. It could be your work, your health, a relationship, your finances. Choose one. Now, on the far left side of your mind's eye, I want you to project an image of the extreme of too little, the vice of deficiency. See it clearly. If it's your work, perhaps you see an image of yourself mired in procrastination, apathy, and stagnation, opportunities passing you by. Truly feel the emotional weight of this path, the quiet shame, the low energy, the subtle despair of unrealized potential. What does it feel like in your body? Notice the heaviness, the slowness, the coldness. What sounds do you hear? Perhaps silence, or the sound of a clock ticking, time slipping away. Just be with this vision for a moment, without judgment. Now, let that image fade and release it. On the far right side of your mental space, I want you to visualize the opposite extreme. Too much, the vice of excess. See yourself in a state of rigid, obsessive, frantic overdrive. See the desk piled high, the frantic typing, the exhausted eyes. Feel the buzzing, wired anxiety of this path, the relentless internal pressure, the constant fear of falling short, the tense shoulders, the shallow breathing, the bone-deep exhaustion that comes from constant, graceless striving. What do you smell? Perhaps the scent of stale coffee. What do you feel? The frantic pounding of your heart. Acknowledge this strain. It too is a form of suffering. It is a fire that consumes its own fuel. Finally, let that image dissolve as well. Release it completely. Turn your full, gentle attention to the space directly in front of you, in your center. This is the space of the golden mean. Here, I want you to begin to construct the image of your middle way. Allow it to arise naturally. What does true, vibrant, sustainable balance look like and feel like for you in this area of your life? See yourself making a wise choice. See yourself working with focused, calm energy, and then closing your laptop with a sense of completion and peace. See yourself enjoying a nourishing meal or laughing with a loved one. See the look of calm confidence on your face in this vision. See your shoulders relax. Feel a sense of grounded, centered strength in your core. Breathe into this central image. What is the emotional texture of this space? Perhaps it is peace. Perhaps it is joy. Perhaps it is a quiet sense of fulfillment. Feel this in your body. This is your equilibrium. This is your center. This feeling of well-being is always available to you when you choose the path of moderation. Now, before you open your eyes, let's set an intention. Ask yourself, what is one small, tangible step I can take in the next 24 hours to move just 1 inch closer to this central path? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be tiny. A 5-minute walk. A single deep breath before responding to a stressful email. Saying no to one small request. Formulate this single step as a clear intention in your mind. Take one more deep, centering breath, bringing this feeling of balance with you. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes. The journey we have taken today has been deep and wide. We have seen how the pull of extremes is a powerful force, rooted in our very psychology. We have seen how the greatest minds of both the East and the West, from the Buddha to Aristotle, from the Stoics to the Taoists, all converged on the same fundamental truth, that the path to a flourishing life is a path of balance. We have seen this wisdom applied to the most pressing challenges of our modern lives. The goal here is not about achieving instant perfection. That desire is, in itself, an extreme. The true practice is a lifelong commitment to conscious, repeated choices. It is the art of choosing the path of balance over the path of chaos, choosing moderation over excess, in the thousands of small decisions that make up a life. Moderation is not about making your life smaller, less passionate, or less exciting. It is about building a foundation so strong, so stable, and so resilient that your life can soar to its greatest heights. It is the strong, centered trunk of the tree that allows the branches to reach for the sky without snapping in the wind. This is the ultimate form of freedom from the tyranny of your own impulses. Freedom from the exhausting roller coaster of highs and lows, and the freedom to consciously, wisely, and artfully architect a life of profound purpose and peace. And now, we must prepare for the final piece of the puzzle for achieving this inner peace. Tomorrow, on day 14, our journey will lead us to confront one of the most powerful and challenging concepts required for any semblance of balance, the act of forgiveness. It is a crucial, non-negotiable next step, because holding on to resentment, anger, or a desire for revenge is perhaps the most depleting, corrosive, and violent internal extreme of all. It is the ultimate act of imbalance, a state where we drink a potent poison every day and expect another person to suffer, all the while throwing our own inner world into a state of perpetual, agonizing chaos. It is the anchor that moors us in the stormy waters of the past, making it impossible to navigate toward a peaceful future. It is a session you will not want to miss. If you have found value in this deep exploration today, please support the channel with a like, subscribe to continue this quest, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single day of our collective transformation. Thank you for walking this long and vital path today.